be any second. We are live. Hi, Facebook people. Today we have a special non-interview. Today on Comic Spot, this is number 906. He's been on before, probably 300, 400 people before. It's Wayne Big Weezy Brown, and he opens and writes comedy with V. Cat Williams. He's a killer on stage, and he's here today to not talk about his interview. He's here to talk about some life things in the world and some things about interrelating in comedy. So we're going to chop it up, and you just kick back, whether your pants are on or not. Just kick back and share this. If you know somebody who's nice or not nice, share it. It's a good thing to do. All right, here we go. Welcome to the stage, Wayne Big Weezy Brown. Woo!
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wayne, thank you so much.
As you know, when you checked in with me about 25 minutes ago to make sure I was ready for the show, I was still taking my afternoon nap, as comedians do, get ready to be out late. And I put my pants on, not realizing I didn't have to. So, you know, because you were just saying, sit back without your pants on. And I was,
right?
I was going to have to put them on eventually, Linda. But, you know,
well, let me take a look.
Right. Oh, see, look.
Oh, jeez.
You know, normally I put the chain on, the hat, and the shirt, right? And wear my red bikini underwear, you know, have a little home sexiness going on, but I didn't. So, but it's great to be back with you. I always enjoy when we come on together, you know. And so I'm just glad that you had me back. And I know you saw a post that I put up yesterday because people that don't know me, you know, sometimes tend to be a little confused. Some women get a little enamored with my love thoughts that I write. And you know, I can write, quite frankly, I can write some beautiful, in-depth things about love. And I can post some memes that other people write about life in general. Most of them are positive. Sometimes they're positive, negative. You know, it's kind of like a Jewish lady saying, "Oh my God, I love that dress you wore today, except that color. Do you think you could have picked a different color?" So that's what I call a positive, negative, right? And so sometimes I'll put some of that up as well. But I'm glad that you were touched and give me this opportunity. Last weekend, I had the opportunity to work for a good comedic friend of mine, Mr. Aaron Wesley. He puts on shows there in Utah. In Sandy, Utah. And I've been there once before. And you know, I'm always so busy and I can't get out there. And since I've been injured and hadn't been able to be on tour with Cat, you know, I finally started feeling a lot better enough to where I could at least walk on stage and stand a little bit. So I'm trying to get back in shape so I can get back on the World War III tour. And so I went to I went to Salt Lake City. I landed at the airport, and I was just I was just taken back by the white people. What happened is it's like a joke I helped one of the comedians write. And the joke is, I'm not white, but I'm not white, okay? And because what happened is everyone there has an aura about them that there is no privilege. They don't feel entitled to anything. The friendliness was so authentic. It was so genuine. It was fantastic. I really, I wasn't taken back. I was just pleasantly overjoyed to be with people that were so friendly and seemed so concerned about U.S. strangers versus what I get here in Los Angeles and some other parts of the country, like New York is they're just fucking terrible in New York City and some other places as well. But that Utah gave me such a great feeling, the ride in the car with Tom and the lift was just amazing conversation and so pleasant. He didn't give me a condescending feel. The check-in at the hotel was just so smooth and so helpful. And it was a week ago yesterday, and it was St. Patrick's Day, and we're having a great St. Patrick's Day menu over here at the little restaurant. I stayed at the Hilton Garden Inn in Sandy, Utah. And and I said, oh, I really don't celebrate that, but no, there's great food, right? I mean, there was no reason to tell me that the restaurant was open and serving all this stuff. You come in, how you doing? Fine. You have a reservation? Yes. Give them my name, right? And on the counter, they had the flyers for the show, right? Right. So she says, oh, you're Big Weezy. You're on the show. I'm like, what the fuck? Right? So you're Big Weezy. You're on the show. And so then, yes, I am. And, we have this pleasant conversation, and the kitchen closes at 10 o'clock, but it's best to get there before 9:30 because they start cleaning up. So the service is not as good, right? I come down, I eat, I have like a half-hour conversation with the server before I even ordered. And I'm like, I'm in fucking dreamland. This is amazing, all right? And now I know why every black dude in Utah has a white woman. That shit's off the fucking chain. I swear to God. All right, it's crazy. But, and what happens is I do that. And then yesterday, Linda, I'm sitting here working from my chair next to my bed here. And, I got a little coffee table, not a coffee table, a little tray table, the ones that were invented for TV dinners back in the 50s so that you could sit on your sofa and pop your tray into the oven and then take it out after 30 minutes from the freezer. 30 minutes, you grab your Swanson, your banquet, right? And then you put that on the tray with the family, and you sit on the sofa in front of the TV and watch TV, and then boom, the TV dinner was invented. So I've got one of those trays here, and I sit here and I work all day long. I write, I practice saying my jokes here with different intonations in my voice and inflection. Sometimes I actually record it and just to hear it and see if I'm going to make my adjustments, right? Then I work on my vocals a little bit. Then I'll work on my acting, with some dialogue and things like that. And I record that. And so, so I put in a long 15-hour day. People don't understand that we put in a 15-hour day and sometimes even longer. And as I'm putting in this day, and as I'm getting ready to do these things, I have this great feeling that I received there from when I was in Utah. I mean, I didn't even want to come back. So it's kind of like how I live my life, because in the 50s, that's kind of how it was. There was common courtesy. People talked a lot of shit inside their house. We beat our wives because there was no domestic violence. OJ fucked that up for men. Now we have to be, we can't fucking beat women up. I don't know what's going on with that. And some people say, well, Big Weezy, that sounds kind of terrible. No, women had outlet because they would just beat the children, and it was a vicious cycle, and we all enjoyed it. And oh, yeah, I'm just kidding with that one.
It's true.
There's truth to that. But when you walked out the front door, it was good morning, how you doing, right? Everyone was pleasant. When you walked into the store, if someone was behind you, you kind of looked back a little bit out, you gave them a little side eye, and you held the door for them, and their response was, thank you very much. And then they did a little side eye, and they looked, and if someone was behind them, they held the door for that person, and that person would say, thank you very much. And then the next person had a little side eye, and if there was someone behind them, they repeated the same thing, and then eventually no one was coming, and the door would close. right? And then you'd be in the store and you'd be shopping. And as you were coming to the intersection, right? That store intersection. It's not like driving, right? The person on the right has the right of way when you both stop at the same time. Well, inside the supermarket, right? Inside your department store, your Macy's, and your inside of your superstores, your Walmarts and your Target, when you come to that intersection and there are people coming, one person stops and the other person goes in front. And whoever stops, the other person stops, you wave them on or they know that you stopped. There's a body language that says, no, go ahead. And that person says, thank you. And then they keep going and then you keep going, right? And you may even respond with a you're welcome. And everyone's pleasant and we're nice, right? You accidentally brush someone and you say, oh, I'm sorry. And the other person acknowledges it by saying, oh, that's okay. I know you didn't mean any harm. And then you keep going, right? And that's how it works. And then all of a sudden, right, the 60s started to come along and people started to realize because of the Vietnam War that there's some, there's some certain things going on because my man, Martin Luther King, taught us all how to protest against certain things, right? So we get the civil rights bill passed and everything. And then people start saying, oh my God, these black folks got something. So the hippies come along and they start protesting and they want to have the free love type of situation and, and let's, screw government and all that kind of stuff. And then the Beatles came along and was on the Ed Sullivan show. And then we had Elvis Presley gyrating on television, and the advertisers on the network TV are going crazy. They canceled Bewitched because they put shorts on her, right? And they canceled the show because the advertisers were controlling everything because really what they were trying to do is keep this Leave It to Beaver, type of a dream life going on. And we all use that as a guide to how to treat each other in the world. All right. So eventually it was like, fuck this and fuck that. And, there's free love and I don't have to work if I don't want to and all that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with those things. That's what freedom is all about. But then it started to turn there. Sometimes people would be a little mean to each other. It was no big deal. But what happens is when someone was mean, the rest of us were appalled. I can't believe this type of behavior. What in the world is going on? How did this happen? Right? But then it starts to turn and now it's gone completely the other way. If you're nice, it's like, what the fuck's wrong with this person? What do they want from me? Why are they being nice to me? All right. And I'm guilty of it as well for the most part because I used to trust everything that came my way. My personal philosophy, Linda, was I'm going to trust you from the beginning until I have a reason not to trust you. All right. And that's how we got married. I mean, let's face it, right? You see someone and you get ready to, all right, you're interested in going out and this person's interested in you, right? And so then you decide to go out. Perhaps maybe you even spoke to their father and said, listen, I'm interested in going out with your daughter. I want to court your daughter. And maybe the family sent a chaperone out the first few times because, there was something about fucking on the first date that was taboo back then. Okay, so, but the bottom line is that was how it worked. And then you go out, then you realize after about 3 or 4 weeks, this is the one. Okay, there was an inherent trust there, whatever they said. As a woman, whatever your gut man said, you lived on every word, everything he said, you lived on it. And as a man, you looked at your woman and you're like, oh my God, this is the woman that's going to clean my house and have my children and cook for me every single night, all right? Because that was how we thought the roles were in our country. And everyone was nice and boom, next thing you know, 6 months later, you were married. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, there was a time where you met someone and at the end of 6 months, you were motherfucking married. All right? Now in our society, what we do is we go out, we fuck, we have kids, and then we think about getting married. Okay? And if we decide not to get married, all right, then we think there are some men, not all men, but there are some men that think about, listen, this is my favorite phrase, Linda. Please don't put me on child support. Like that is like that. And if anyone that knows me knows I got a thing about this. It's like, what the fuck do you mean don't put you on child support? Do you know that it basically costs, in my estimation, my guesstimation, because I didn't do any research. And as a comedian, we normally research these things, and I didn't, because this is something that I didn't know I was going to be speaking about. Just a small little snippet on that, and of course, why I was taking a nap. But we do have a responsibility to our audience to research things, so when we say it, they're factual. But in my estimation, I'm going to say that if I had to raise a child in today's climate, that it would roughly run me almost $800 or $900 a month. All right, which equates to about $16,000 a year. That means that number only includes clothing and supplies. All right, doesn't include the rent. It really doesn't include grocery, just clothing and supplies. That includes transportation to and from events. That includes the uniforms for extracurricular activities, whether it's football, whether it's soccer, whether it's Little League Baseball. It also includes the fees for joining those things. Okay. It also includes the money that the moms have to spend when it's their turn to buy the snacks after the game, which of course is completely different than when I played. When I played, we bought fruit punch, potato chips, and a box of Twinkies, and we were happy. But the motherfucking vegans have screwed this shit up. The health mongers have screwed that crap up. So now it's probably fruit bars and non-glutinous bullshit and all that kind of stuff, right? We have glucose-free kettle chips for everyone after the game, and we have triple filtered water that doesn't have chlorine in it, when there was a time where chlorine and fluoride needed to be in water. So who knows? All I'm really saying is that that's what it costs to raise a child, right? And then you have a guy who is complaining about the amount of money coming out of his check. Can you believe I'm paying $150? And in their mind, the money's going to their ex. Fuck that bitch. That bitch is not getting any money from me. That money's going to their ex. They have no idea what's going on. What really is going on is they don't have enough fuck around money to go out and still go out on dates and everything. So they're pissed off, right? I can't get cable. I can't watch ESPN because I'm taking care of my fucking baby. And I can't get a better car because I got to take care of my fucking baby. And every time I send my measly little $150 out of every check that totals out to $300, that bitch is getting her hair and nails done with it. And where's the love, right?
Thank you.
You're supposed to be taking care of your child. If you have a child, then you got to do what my father did. My parents were divorced when I was about 10, 11 years old. And my father paid his child support $50 a week religiously. Every Friday, that money showed up in my mama's hand. And my father picked us up every Wednesday for dinner and every other weekend. I hear kids tell stories about sitting on the curb waiting for their dad to show up. I used to say, oh, fuck, here comes dad. Because he was fucking boring, right? He lived in a one-bedroom apartment or sometimes a studio. We go over there. He didn't have the TV on. He listened to country music sitting in the corner, talking to himself, going, and then you'd hear that fucking bitch. And I said, okay, he's talking about mom. Right? That's what my father's doing. And he's sitting there in the corner and he's doing that and he's smoking his cigarettes, right? And then, of course, we're sleeping, right? So then I'm sleeping on the cushions from the sofa, right? My brother's probably sleeping in the chair. It's the longest 2 days in hell in the weekend, right? It's just crazy. But what happens is my father never missed. And my father says, he used to make up stories when we were kids. Because believe it or not, Linda, my father told us a bedtime story every fucking night.
No way.
Every fucking night, my father told us a bedtime story. Okay. And so he would read us bedtime stories. So I remember one time he was telling a story about the gold rush of California and Sutter's Fort. All right. And Sutter's Fort's up there in Sacramento, California, or somewhere up north. Okay. And he goes, we're going to go to Sutter's Fort. That son of a bitch. took us to fucking Sutter's Fort, right? And we panhandled for gold. We panhandled for gold and went through the fort and, went through the thing, right? And it was the most boringest motherfucking thing I ever experienced in my life up until that point. But that's not the point. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that guy kept his fucking promise. So my father always did what he said he was going to do. And that's made me the man that I am today. Keeps his word, says what he's going to say, and that's what it is. All right? But I miss the kindness. I miss how people are with folks. I don't like that's why I'm glad I'm not in business anymore. For almost 29 years, I had to have a facade in which I had to question everything people did. I didn't use critical thinking. I went beyond critical thinking. I used active listening technique. Active listening technique is when you're listening to what someone is saying actively, and you're analyzing what they're saying, and you're picking out the inconsistencies in what they say in order to rebuff what they're saying or to protect yourself. For instance, if I don't use it all the time anymore. It used to be a way of life, but I could be speaking to someone, having a casual conversation, and they can say, oh my God, that time we were in Arizona. Remember, honey, when we were in Arizona back in June, such and such, and we had such a great time? Right, okay. And then, it's a couple of months later, right? And the guy is saying, remember, yeah, it's like that time we took that trip to Arizona back in July. And I went, that motherfucker said they went in June. Right? Uh-oh. Was he making it up? Maybe he's a liar. Now I got to watch everything he says. Because why would you miss something? Because when you're telling the truth, you don't misremember the truth. I like making up words, misremember. You don't, right? It's just, so then that's what active listening technique is. That's what politicians do, right? They're having debates and they're on television. And what's so great is they're trying to be covertly rude, but come across as being cordial at the same time. And so therefore we don't trust what they say because they do this.
Wow.
They do this as an emphasis to tell you, I'm telling the American people that if you vote for me, I'm going to bullet point number 1 for you. And I'm going to bullet point number 2 for you. I'm going to bullet point number 3 for you, right? And then we start falling for that. And television is the same way. Those arrogant son of a guns is like, we tell America how to think. We tell them what to buy. We tell them what to drink. We tell them how to dress, right? And my father was on that shit, man. You'll very rarely will you see a label on any of my clothing.
Wow.
I have a very lovely overnight bag, a weekender, they like to call them. The gigantic duffel bag. I have an extra large one. I have a medium-sized one, and I have a matching backpack. And this bag is fucking luxurious. All right. It is luxurious. And it's not a designer label or name to the bag, not yet. It's by a company called Tote and Carry. All right. That's what I buy. Things that are luxurious like that from unknown small companies that haven't made it big where it's not popular to where they're things yet.
Nice.
All right. And that's what it is. Because I'll see people wearing these Gucci belts and, expensive, sandals for $350, And my father was against that. He goes, we don't wear other people's names on our clothes, son. All right. I wore green one day, dressed up in a whole bunch of green. And my father says, what's that? I said, St. Patrick's Day. We don't celebrate St. Patrick's Day, son, because that's what everybody else does. We don't do what everyone else does. So I have that drilled into me. And, of course, when we were young and I met somebody, if I met you and you were introduced and I was a child, they would say, Wayne, this is Mrs. Smith. And I called you Mrs. Smith. I didn't call you Linda. I called you Mrs. Smith. Right? That was a sign of respect. It was a sign of respect. So that's what I miss.
Yeah.
That's what I miss. It doesn't mean that the world's not better, because things are better. There's no way in the world I want to ride around in one of these older automobiles that everyone seems to like, that are classics, that become classified as a classic, that was originally cost, the car originally cost $3,000. Someone finds it, fixes it up, and now it's worth $60,000. It's not a fucking airbag in that car. I wouldn't be caught dead in that fucking car. That thing's a killer. Remember the head? There was no padding on the headboard when I was a kid. That thing was all steel, right? You hit your head on that, you were gone. There were no seat belts, right? You took out the windshield. You just took out the windshield, right? People don't realize seat belts were designed to keep you in the car because a lot of people died outside of the car. All right. Then they realized, shit, the lap belt's not enough. We need a belt to come across the chest. And then in 1974, 75, and 76, I think it was those 3 years, at least 75 for sure, they regulated it. The whole country, cars had automatic seatbelts in them. You get in the car, the seatbelt automatically came across because somebody in the government decided, let's try and save lives. And everybody in America, fuck what the government says. You ain't going to try and help me save my life. I'm not wearing no seatbelt. So then they had to get together and say, fuck it. If you don't want to do it, we're going to give you a ticket. Right? Because of the 60s telling everybody, fuck the government. And then you got people fighting each other now over the vaccine. I don't know if you want to get the vaccine or don't want to get a vaccine, but we don't have to fight about it. Right? And people are just getting crazy out there. I got vaccinated, right? This gets so crazy. Someone says, did you get vaccinated? I don't want to discuss it. It's none of your business. You know what's none of my business? The size of your dick. That's what's none of my business. When I was on stage, there was a couple, because in Utah, there's no mask mandate. There was a couple sitting in the front row wearing masks. And I made a joke with them. I was like, oh, finally, I can use this joke I wrote about masks. Just a small bit. I said, you guys are the only ones wearing masks, and I want to thank you. Because most people don't know the reason that we wore masks is so that you could protect me against COVID. And I'm not wearing a mask because I don't really give a fuck about you. So that I blew into the mic. But that was a perfect example. When COVID first came, we were all so scared. There was so much unknown. We had no problem wearing masks. They said, don't go out. We all stayed the fuck in. All right? Some people started hoarding things like toilet paper and, hand sanitizer. That Larry David episode in the last season, at the beginning of the last season, in which there's another old famous comedian, not Richard Brooks, that's the actor from Law and Order back in the day. But his last Albert Brooks.
Albert, yes.
Yeah, this episode, Albert Brooks plans his funeral. And he's having a mock funeral with all of his friends because he wants to hear the speeches that they're saying. That's why Larry David shows are so brilliant because, he was the creator of Seinfeld, and they used to come up with all of these crazy things to do on television. And what people don't know is that Seinfeld was funny, but it was a show about being mean-spirited.
Wow.
The whole premise of that show was to be mean-spirited. It's mean-spirited. And it was brilliantly done, right? It was brilliantly done, like the regifting episode, okay? Where someone gives you a gift and you don't like the gift, so you decide to give that gift to someone else. Those were like brilliant things that made us start thinking. So now we all use the term regifting, all right? We all use the term double dipping. I remember getting a chip, dipping it, biting it, and re-dipping it, and no one gave a fuck. And then George does it in an episode, and the whole world is now aware of double dipping. That was the importance of that show. It was about the mean spirit of people that they brought it out. So in this particular show on HBO, Curb Your Enthusiasm, or as we like to call it in the industry, Curb, there's this mock, for Albert Brooks, there's this mock funeral. He's sitting upstairs in his bed with his girlfriend, watching it on the monitors, enjoying his funeral, right? And the speeches. Larry gets up because he has to go to the bathroom. Now, if you've ever watched the show, Larry is a mean guy. He's an uncaring guy. He says what's on his mind. He doesn't care, and he hurts people's feelings. All right. And so he's continued the mean-spirited part. All right. And the premise is he's rich from being Seinfeld because he's Larry David playing himself. So he's rich from being on Seinfeld, and he can do anything he wants. Right. He does anything he wants, says what he wants. He doesn't care. And everyone in his world is the same. The only person that used to tell him about it was his wife, and he finally divorced her, and she married Ted Danson. And you got Ted Danson playing himself in the show, right? And the show is brilliantly written, even though they riff a lot of the scenes, but they riff because they speak comedically. So they speak comedically with punches and setups and tags and callbacks. It's amazing. I always tell comedians, my God, we should watch these shows the way that they're written. You know, Modern Family, all these sitcoms are written in comedic language. So anyway, Larry's looking for the bathroom, Linda, and he opens up the closet, and there's just Perel, just tons of Perel, tons of toilet paper, tons of wipes. And all of a sudden, everyone turns around and they sees this, and they start saying, you know, he's a COVID hoarder. He's a COVID hoarder, right? And their whole crowd's going crazy, and people are disgusted, and they're walking out, and Albert's girlfriend looks at him, and she says, "To hell with you," and she gets out of the bed, and she leaves, all right? And it was just so crazy. That's because that's what COVID was. Right? People were hoarding things, right? There was goodwill at the beginning, and we're all respecting each other. And then there's no toilet paper, and then we can't find this, and the meat start disappearing, and all this kind of stuff. And then where people are starting to be mean, they're getting frustrated, they're being mean with each other. Here in LA, they're driving on the freeway because there's no traffic, and people are literally doing 100 miles an hour on the freeway. Like, they can't believe it. People are working from home, they're being stuck together. And that created a little bit of a meaner streak in my mind.
Yeah.
I think that people are less patient. You know, they react in a more straightforward, non-caring manner. You know, and maybe that's a genuine reaction. Maybe that's organically authentic, as we like to say. But for me, it isn't. Genuinely organic is me making the effort to be cordial and nice to you in public.
Yes.
And that's what is missing. And as far as I'm concerned, in the public eye.
I'd kind of like to spin this into the comedy world. As you know, you've probably seen people in comedy who have killed themselves.
Well, you know that, Robin Williams, of course. What's the other guy who had a TV show that was really great from Saturday Night Live? Oh, I can't remember his name. But him as well. Recently we've had Brody Stevens here in LA. And then the guy that had that great Taco Bell bit, I can't remember his name. He was amazing too. I remember running into him at LA Comedy Club one night in the green room and having great conversations. And for me, there is a big misnomer, but it may be true. I don't have research, but what's so crazy is when I read in these comedic groups, that are on Facebook, because I started the first comedic group, and my group is completely different than these other groups.
What's your group?
It's called Comics.
Oh.
CMICS. It's so crazy because when I first started the group, I used to get people that like to read comic books trying to join. All right. But it's called Comics. And so, I mean, I've had famous people that used to be members before they got off of Facebook and went to Instagram. And, but there's no fighting. There's no commenting, crazy shit. Nothing like that. The first group that I saw that was like that was backbiting and all those things, was up north in San Francisco, the Bay Area. They used to go at it. You're full of shit. You're not funny. And I just thought this was crazy. And most of the groups that I am in, all right, and I think I'm in like 50 or 60 groups because every city has a group. And most of my feeds on Facebook are the group feeds. The mean-spirited misinformation that comes across is crazy. And I get to work comedy at the highest level, and I don't see it. When I work and when my son started as a child actor, and oh, sorry, I live off of Main Street. This is normal.
Somebody washing your windows?
Wouldn't even make any difference. You know, it was 80 degrees out here today, so I had to have the windows to get the little breeze here. All right, so what happened is that you know, they get a little you know, they go at it with the misinformation and they fight each other. And at the highest level, it's amazing. You can have, it's like a video I saw once with Arsenio Hall, Dave Chappelle, and I think, and Chris Rock, all in the same room, complimenting each other, telling each other how great they are. My son, as a child actor, got to work with a lot of famous people, and that's what it was like. I've never seen a director go off and yell at people. Now, we've seen a director portrayed that way in movies and TV. I personally have never seen it. All right? I've seen nothing but people focus and relentlessly working hard to get the right shot and to stay on budget, all right, to keep the union production manager happy. And so when I see some of these portrayals, you know, I'm like, I've never witnessed that. I'm pretty sure it happened back in the heyday in Hollywood when actors were, you know, the talent were employees and they didn't have a choice. You know, you were contracted with the studio and they told you what movie you were going to be in and you played your part. And the more popular it became, the more you got promoted. You know, that's why I tell people you got to watch that Desi and Lucy Arnaz documentary directed by Amy Poehler. It is an unbelievable insight to those two people who revolutionized television. Desi Arnaz, a Cuban kid, revolutionized television, and there are techniques that are in place now that he created. A lot of people don't know, and I didn't know that when they shot the Lucy show, because it was a multi-camera show, right? And nowadays you will have sitcoms, all right, or back in the day they used to actually use the whole term, situation comedy, but they actually have sitcoms that are shot with multi-cameras. He shot it on film because it was too grainy to shoot it anywhere else. So he shot it on film so they would have clarity, but it was so expensive to shoot on film and it took so long to shoot the day that they never did it. They never had any retakes. Everything was one take.
Wow.
That they were so brilliant at their rehearsal that they could go and shoot that show.
Jeez.
And my experience in Hollywood, because Desi Arnaz had a reputation of being very focused. But Lucille Ball's reputation, was she was very hard to work with, difficult, and very edgy. But when my takeaway was that when you hear those things about people, it's because the people around them are lazy.
I agree.
All right. The people around them are lazy and they can't keep up with the pace. Cat Williams is relentless. The man is relentless.
You talked about his work ethic. Speak about that again real briefly so people get it.
His work ethic is nonstop. All right. And of course, we throw the word around genius, but he actually is a genius. in every sense of the word, in the true definition of the word, because the word genius is based on your IQ score. Like the word idiot is based on your IQ score. The word dumb is based on your IQ score. The word moron is based on your IQ score. All right. Now, these are all words that we don't use today, but those are all clinical terms.
That's right.
Okay. So Cat Williams, in every sense of the word, is a true genius. His IQ is through the roof. It's amazing. And his generosity is second to none.
Well, I'd like people to hear about the generosity he has, so maybe people can be more generous with whatever they have.
Well, I'm going to tell you, it's easy to be generous when you have money. Okay. I've seen Cat being generous when he didn't have any money. All right. Now, it doesn't mean that, I don't mean when he was broke. That's not what I mean. I just mean that, I'll give you an example. There was a story that came out probably 4 years ago, around this time, March, April, May. All right. I think it was the year before the pandemic, so it was probably 2019. And he was missing $60 million. And so at that time, based on my opinion, I don't know anything about this, we never discussed it, it didn't seem that his cash flow was the same as it always was. All right. And, that may be something that I just was a perception of mine, because we would write all day and we talk all the time. But at that time, I had a personal situation that affected me so much that I was financially poor. I was practically homeless. I was staying in Airbnbs. I had been physically removed from the home I'm sitting in right now. And I didn't know where I was going to lay my head. And he would call me and he would say, "Hey, Weezy, can you pick me up some beef patties?" And and I say, "Sure." That's some beef that's surrounded in pastry. And they run anywhere from 99 cents to $3 each. So I would go and buy them out. All right. And I only have like $20 on me. But this is a man that gives you when he calls you, you want to do whatever he asks because you just want to repay him. You just want to be able to do something for him because we may be friends, but we really aren't because we're not evenly yoked. Okay. He can't call me and get $3 million. He can't call me $10,000. Right. I can't rent him a limousine. I can't let him use my private jet. So we're not equally yoked. But I still consider him a friend. But I've always told him that we're not equally yoked. I can't do a fucking thing for you. So I go and I get these beef patties. Right. And he gives me $300, knowing that $300 is going to help me get an Airbnb for a week. Because he gave me that, and he goes, "All right, get yourself a place to stay." That is who that man is. Now, wow. The story where you're missing $60 million, someone is taking your cash, you don't have access to your money. Now, this stuff I'm assuming. I don't know anything firsthand. So now maybe your pins are changed on your ATM. You've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, right? You wait, right? But yet you see, my situation. And when you could just not call me and leave me alone, let me fend for myself, because why? I'm 59 years old or 58 years old. I'm supposed to have my shit together already at 58 years old. I'm supposed to be able to get kicked out of my house and still go rent a hotel room and take care of myself. This man is thinking of ways to help me. And he did that for 3 months. He did that for 3 months. So that's the type of heart that this man has. That's his generosity. My mom passed January 16th. I took care of her for 2 years, and he used to talk to my mother all the time. I used to FaceTime her once a month, and he paid for her funeral. People don't know that.
Oh.
When he found out, I told him, I said, Mom's gone. He called me. He was truly upset. And he just told me on the spot, I've got the funeral. Now, people will say that and forget. And then for like 4 or 5 days, he's hounding me. How much am I sending for the funeral?
Wow. He's really a person of follow through.
Absolutely. Always. Doesn't forget. So I say that to say everyone I've ever met at the highest level in Hollywood is this way. You can look at a Denzel Washington interview and see that he's that way. And you can read about the people he helped along the way. And I find that there's some people every now and then that do slip through the cracks. Like it's publicly, everyone thinks Kanye's crazy, and he may be just crazy in love. Because we've all had at least that one person that we've had a soulmate type of kindred situation, and we always thought we'd be together, and it didn't work out and caused us to say and do things that we normally wouldn't have done. I saw a court show. I love court TV, a show where a lady was with the guy for 10 years. And all of a sudden he breaks up with her in February and has a new girlfriend in February. And she is in a tailspin. She's breaking windows and she's getting his car and moving his car. And he comes out from the store and he can't find his car, and, all kinds of things. And everyone's, and Judge Judy is telling the guy, hey, you got to move on. You got to push on. You got to put a pin in it. That fucking shit's not easy.
Not.
But my first girlfriend, Alma Rosa Martinez, when we broke up in high school, I cried in my mother's lap. I was like 18, 19 years old. I cried in my mother's lap, that screeching cry that you do when people die. That loss was it hurt so much. For 2 years, I drove to work playing that song, every time that song Reunited by Peaches and Herb came on the radio on my way to work, tears would be streaming down my face. Okay? Tears would be streaming down my face because she cheated on me, Linda.
Ugh.
And what happened is that was my first experience. I never thought that would happen. It was her birthday, and she says, hey, Cat. I said, hey, baby, or whatever I called her, at whatever you call. But, she's 17, and, she's still in high school, and I'm out of high school. That was the first power move, because the reason why I said power move is because I was the assistant manager of a McDonald's restaurant. She was a regular employee, and that shit don't fly today. Right? No. But back then, I'm chasing her. I mean, you talk about sexual harassment. I was the king of sexual harassment, chasing her around the store, trying to get her to go out with me while she had a boyfriend. So she breaks up with the boyfriend and finally gives me a chance, because I told her, if all I need is just let me take you home one time, it'll be done. All right. She lived 5 minutes from the restaurant. I gave her a ride home. It took 20 minutes. It was over. All right. It was done. And here we are going out. It's her birthday. I think she was turning 18 or 19 at the time. And she was working at another fast food restaurant, in one of the valleys here, not the San Fernando Valley. I can't remember. Anyway, it was a place called Jim's Burger. And I didn't know which Jim's Burger she worked at. And I was like, it's a shame she has to work Jim's Burger tonight on her birthday. So I get the phone book out and I start looking at the Jim's Burgers, right? And I found about 5 Jim's Burgers, had their addresses. I don't even know how I found the Jim's Burgers, because nowadays we pop everything in the GPS. Anyway, I ended up going to 2 or 3 Jim's Burgers. It's the third Jim's Burger I walk in, and I said, "Hey, is Alma here?" And they said, "Oh, no, she's off today. It's her birthday." So now I have the right Jim's Burger. I said, "No, I know it's her birthday." And I'm holding a fucking bouquet of roses. Right? 19. Or, yeah. Well, no, she was 19. I was 20, 21. So I'm holding this bouquet of roses, right? And I said, "No." She said, "Yes." She goes, "No, she's off today. She went out with her boyfriend." And I was like, "I'm her boyfriend." But her car was in the lot, Linda.
Wow.
The car that I bought, it was a Mustang 2.
Oh my
Right?
gosh.
I remember they came out with the Mustang 2. I bought her a Mustang 2. Went down to the dealership and everything. I parked across the street with my lights off, and I sat there for 3 hours till she came back to get her car. She came back with another guy. She hops in her car, and then she drives off. She goes home, and as she's getting out of her car, I drive by slowly, and she sees me. And I keep going. And when I got home, the phone was a ringing, because there were no cell phones in those days.
Oh.
So it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and my phone is ringing, because I still lived at home with my parents, but I had my own phone line in my room. And, she's apologizing. And anyway, she was cheating on me with another guy. And man, I cried in my mama's lap. My mama tried to tell me it was going to get better. And I was like, "It's never going to get better, man. It's never going to get better. Oh, oh, God. Oh, my God. Oh, my God." For 3 hours, my mom just, right, tears streaming down my eyes as I'm driving to work every time I heard that song. So I like to write about love. But at the highest level, everyone's great, Linda. Everyone's great.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear.
Comedically, we run into people that aren't great. Like, people like to give my guy Ty Rivera a difficult time. And you're sitting with a guy who's almost, now I don't know what his IQ score is, but I would call him genius. The guy's a tremendous critical thinker. He is extremely knowledgeable in comedy, just like I am. He's actually more knowledgeable in comedy than I am. And he's more experienced in comedy than I am. And he's more well-known in comedy than I am. Because people think that they equate being well-known in comedy with being a household name, so to speak. No. When you can work at any comedy club in America on the weekend, when you're passed at all those clubs, you're a comedy great. And Ty is a comedy great. And he tells people what they're doing wrong. He gives them great advice. Oh, hold on. Did I lose you?
Yeah, you're gone for a second.
My brother was calling me. He doesn't know I'm on the phone. And he gives great advice. Oh, hold on a second. All right, here we go. And they don't want to take the advice. And for me, I think there's an underlying deal because he's gay.
Wow.
Right? And I just think that's absurd.
That's so crazy.
It's absurd.
There's no reason. He was coaching me for a good 4 or 6 months, and I have brain trauma, and he wants everything said the same way every time, and I can't do it. So I'm frustrating to him,
Because because that's what we do in our business, Linda.
Yeah.
People, I'm glad you said that. I know that we weren't going to talk about comedy, but let me just say this. He is 100% correct. We get on stage and we say the same thing the same way every single time. Every freaking word, the looks, the hand gestures, everything. Any other way is lazy comedy and you will get nowhere in the business. He's 100% correct. I tell this to comics all the time. This is what happens. When you first start doing comedy, you find out that when you're just having conversation with your friends, you're hilarious. So you think, oh my God, I don't really need to memorize or learn or do my set. I'm fun just like this. So you'll say, okay, I'm going to do a premise. I'm going to get on stage and just riff the premise because I'm funnier that way. But what you're doing, actuality, is chasing punchlines. And you don't know when the audience is going to laugh, so then you step on the laughs. Those are just two off the top of my head of things that happen. And then, of course, because you don't know that the punchline is coming and that the audience is laughing, you can't tag your punchlines. And because you can't tag your punchlines, you can't either tag it once or use the rule of three. And because you don't tag it once and use the rule of three, then you can't call back on a punchline that you don't know there was a punchline because you didn't know that the audience was going to laugh because you're so busy standing on the laugh. But because you said something funny like, the boat looked crazy, and the audience laughed and you didn't know they were going to laugh, you start chasing the laugh. So now you start trying to talk about boats. But what we do is we take the same material, Linda, and we replicate it in front of different audiences every night and make it look fresh. And that's what our art form is. And that's what Ty was trying to tell you. And of course, you're going to get frustrated because you're going to go through 6 years where people are not going to laugh, where it's going to be a hit or miss. And everyone is afraid of the audience not laughing. Bombing is such a big deal, and it isn't. I could care less. Last night, I worked a show in front of 8 people. And I was the only comedian that pretty much hit besides the host. And the reason is because I did a set. Because when you do a set, the funny comes naturally and it works. There was another guy that did a set, but his comedy is more theatrical than regular stand-up. All right. He's almost a prop comic. All right. But without an instrument. He uses music and he uses situational music. What I mean by is there's actually a correct term for it, but I don't know it. But you know, when you watch Law and Order, everyone knows that when you hear that dun, dun, something is, you know, that's a segue in the show to another scene. All right. And so he uses that type of stuff in his set. Okay. So there are literally no punchlines in the set. There's no callback in the set. All right. He's literally chasing punches, but it's done the same way every time. It's entertaining and people enjoy it. And because it's entertaining and people enjoy it, it works for him. But it's not going to get you weekend work unless you make a movie and the movie gives you your break, which is a code word in Hollywood for breakthrough. When you hear someone say, "Is that your break?" that means you broke through on your way to stardom. All right. So unless you get your break, because when you get a break, then you have a license. But if you don't have a break, you don't have a license. You got to do setup, punchline, tag, callback. So yes, and I tell people it's not, if you go to open mic every night, do your 5 minutes a night. You learn how you replicate your material naturally. You play the tape. Oh, I forgot to say this. So the next time you go, and you guys are lucky there in Vegas because you have open mics going all the time. You can hit 3 stages in a night. Right? It's kind of like LA. And next thing you know, you're replicating your material all the time. So then after you learn how to replicate that material, then you have to cut out the fat. All right. Then once you cut out the fat, then you got to expand your subject. So I'll see a young comic on stage, do 5 minutes, and they'll do 5 freaking bits, 6 bits. All right. They'll talk about something, and then they'll stop and talk about something else. And as a professional comedian, we say, wait, you got to expand that. We got to hear more. But it takes about 7 or 8 years to get there. All right. So what I always tell people is you have to worry about not being funny. Like I did. I finally gave up on trying to be funny. And I just worked on my set. And I just worked on my delivery. And I just worked on having stage presence. And that's how I got hired for Cat Williams. If I did what everybody else did, I'd still be doing what everyone else does. But because I focused on those things, that's why I got hired. You know, and
so now because of Ty, I have a good 7 minutes of comedy, but the problem is my brain, sometimes I'll get the 3rd joke in the 1st place or first one in the 4th place, and it's never, I can't guarantee to anybody it's going to be exactly.
Well, that's why you go to open mic, because when you go to open mic, you record it. And when you record it, you listen to it, and you then, boom. And remember, it's open mic. You can take your notes on stage. Mm-hmm. All right? It's open mic. You're allowed to take your notes on stage on open mic. That's open mic is practice. It's not a show. It's open mic. And you can stop and start over again if you want. It's open mic. I used to treat open mic exactly like that. There was the comics up there trying to be funny, trying to make other comics laugh, and I'm doing the same line over and over again. Like, for instance, I have a punchline that's no French fries come with this motherfucker. All right? That's the punchline. And when I say the punchline, nobody thinks it's funny because it's not supposed to be, because a punchline is a misdirection. All right? It's a left turn. It's saying something unexpected. It's making you anticipate one thing, but it's giving you something else. That's what makes it funny. So I would go to open mic and I would say, no French fries come with this motherfucker. All right? And I had my tape on. I would go, no French fries come with this motherfucker. No French fries come with this motherfucker. And it finally ended up being, no French fries come with this motherfucker.
Got it.
That's open mic for me.
I love that.
So now I got all those on tape. Now I can work the bit. And this is the bit. I can't believe what McDonald's is doing. Have you guys seen this? They've got this thing called the Mickey D meal. It's outrageous. You get 4 cheeseburgers, right? 4 chicken sandwiches, 4 medium soft drinks, and a 20-piece chicken McNugget. And that's like 5 a piece because fat people do the math. So I couldn't believe that they would sell something like this to the public, right? Because I'm trying to lose weight. So I go to the drive-thru and order my regular meal, you know, number 1, extra cheese, Diet Coke. And then I pause while the audience chuckles because I ordered this food and got a Diet Coke. And then I started to get appalled. And then I realized what was going on. I called the corporate office. I was like, no French fries come with that motherfucker. Okay. That's how it works. That was that little part of a 20-minute bit called Applewood Smoked Bacon. Right? Same thing. Have you guys met Jack in the Box? You know, that round-faced motherfucker. He's got something now called a munchie meal, right? So it's like, have you guys seen Jack? That round-faced son of a... I mean, he's got something called the munchie meal. Right? That's how I would say it. So I would go to open mic. He calls it the munchie meal. Oh, it's the munchie meal. Have you guys heard of the munchie meal? Right? But I got to cut the fat out. They got the munchie meals. This shit's outrageous. This shit's outrageous. Oh, it's outrageous. And then I go to the menu and I count the menu, right? He's got 6 other fucking sandwiches to bullshit. Then I pick 2 sandwiches. Like the chicken cheese something. It's got tater tots on it, right? Right? And then he's got, this was my favorite. And then he's got the, I forgot what it's called because I don't do the bit anymore. Something about a cheeseburger, right? It's a cheeseburger. I mean, it's it's called a grilled cheeseburger, all right? It's a grilled cheese sandwich on top of a cheeseburger. So he's got the grilled cheese fucking the cheeseburger, ladies and gentlemen. But that's not the problem, all right? So this is the buildup. This is the buildup to the bit, all right? So now I'm raising my voice and I'm building it up and I'm getting the audience to participate and anticipate, all right? That's not the problem, ladies and gentlemen. The problem is they don't sell the munchie meal till 9 o'clock at night. But they show me the commercial, and I point at myself like this. They show me the commercial at 8 o'clock in the fucking morning. Pause. So my fat ass has to sit around for 14 fucking hours before I can even buy that shit. And now the audience is laughing their fucking ass off, right? Because I have, through my voice, my physical act out, and my impression. An impression is when you change your voice. Like if you say, and my mother, you know, I would talk to my mother, and my mother would go, I can't believe that you were out till 10 in the morning. That's a fucking impression. People equate impressions to famous people. Right? And there's so much in this fucking comedy game that you guys have a goddamn genius in your town in Ty Rivera, and they're too busy worried about who he likes or doesn't like, who he's fucking or not fucking, what his dog Bijou's doing, where he's working out at the gym, why his fucking hair is blonde today and red tomorrow. They're worried about all the fucking shit that means absolutely nothing because they're jealous because they can't believe this gay motherfucker's killing the game. He's living in Las Vegas. He has his own car. He lives by himself. He has his own apartment. He lives how he wants to live. He has a cleaning lady come clean for him. He either makes his bed, he doesn't make his bed. His body's off the fucking chain, and he can still eat cheeseburgers and keep that fucking body. I'd be jealous too. All right, so so yeah, you can be frustrated, but you have a motherfucking guy who's going to charge you up the ass probably to coach you. That's worth every penny of it because he knows what he's fucking doing.
Oh, he does know what he's doing. But you know, like the person I have coach me has to have patience with me, and I have problems understanding directions and following them, and I'm not making excuses, but I get perceived that way. I work my ass off to do it the way a coach wants me to, and it doesn't come out that way because of my brain injury. I have mild dementia due to brain trauma, and people don't get it. So I work 10 times as hard. Or
so do you go to
what?
Do you go to open mic every night?
Every night. Every night.
Well, then what you do is, remember, take your notes up there and, and work. Just remember, they normally have everybody normally gives everyone pretty much 5 minutes at open mic, right?
Some are 3.
There's no rule that says you have to use 5 minutes. I used to get up there and use 2 minutes and leave because I'm working on something in particular, like I just told you. And so if you're having a problem with look, you're doing this show on Zoom. When you set Zoom up, there's a procedure, right? I'm pretty sure. I've never set up Zoom, but I'm pretty sure you got to go in there, press some buttons, get permissions. They give you a link. You got to send a link out to everybody and all that kind of stuff, right? Do you have any notes for that? Do you have any notes to tell you how to do that? No, you do it automatically, don't you? Right?
But that doesn't mean I don't have a brain injury.
No. I'm not even suggesting that. No way. No, I'm just saying, what I'm saying is repetition has allowed you, because the first time you did Zoom, you had to, look at this. Okay, I got to do this. Now it's second nature. Well, your jokes become that way too.
Yes, and that's what he definitely helped me with, knowing what I'm going to say and knowing that you've got to repeat it and repeat it and repeat it.
Yes, and he's 100% right. And there are people like myself. There are people like Ty. We work with, up and comers, as we like to call them, or I like to say young comics. And, you know, not you, Linda, I'm just generalizing now. And there are some people that just think, I know what I'm doing. When I tell people Cat Williams does that whole thing that he does word for word, every show, every step, every place he is on stage, everything. And they're surprised. I'm like, we're actors. When a person is on set, they have their dialogue and there's certain things that they have to do, and they do it, and they'll take 4 or 5 takes. We're actors. It's the same thing. We're entertainers. People say to me, I can't say it that way every time. Yeah, well, yeah. Spend your $200 to go see Beyonce, and she decides to go to the right, everything you own to the box to the right, and you're like, no, it's to the left. Oh, it's to the left. But Beyonce's like, fuck it, I don't know the words. I'm going to say to the right. All right?
Well,
no.
When other people are making excuses not to do what their coach tells them, it's different with me. It comes out wrong accidentally.
No, that's all right. It doesn't make any difference. Look, as long as you are going every night doing 5 minutes, right? And my suggestion is you work on the same phrases to the bit for 1 week, and then the next week you work on the second part, and then the next week you work on the third part, then you put it all together and you've got the bit.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even be able to have 7 minutes put together without Ty.
Right.
Now I have to remember it and do it the right way. So yeah, you're right.
We all do it. My second time on stage in almost a year and a half, last Saturday night, I messed up the lesbian joke, right? The lesbian joke is, oh my God, the ladies actually got up and left. So I had to retool the joke. I said, what happened to the lesbian table? Right? And everyone chuckles. I said, oh my God, I messed up. I mean, the LGBTQ elemental P table. And then everyone laughs, right? And I said, it's amazing, right? You see a group of women like that together, and you automatically think they're lesbians. But in Utah, they're called sister wife. And I said, oh, no, I messed up the joke. The joke is really, you know what they call you guys in Long Beach? Side bitch number 1, side bitch number 2, side bitch number 3. But not in Utah. In Utah, you're sister wife number 1, sister wife number 2, sister wife number 3. See? So, but I had started off and said the joke wrong when I was on stage, right? And I still fixed it, right? I was still able to fix it and recover. But that's why, but I hadn't worked in like a year and a half, so that's why we go. So, the audience really in love me. There were people coming up after me telling me how funny I am. And I'm like, these poor people have no idea how terrible this was. All they know is they laughed because I'm professional enough to keep them laughing. Okay. But I watched the tape. I couldn't even get to the first 3 minutes of the tape. It was just terrible. I even had a low. I had like a 40-second low in the tape.
Right.
And the second night was a little bit better. And then last night was fucking amazing because I'm getting back in the sound. Right. So last night I got up there and it just flowed. Still not where it's supposed to be, So yes, what happens is at the level in which you're working, people are prima donnas. They mistake it for being confident. They think they're funny, and they're condescending to each other in comedy. And this is how you know. This is my introduction, Linda. This is a good friend of mine. Give it up for Big Weezy. My introduction used to be, you see them at Ralph's, you see them at Food for Less, special appearances at Smart and Final. Give it up for Big Weezy. But now this is a good friend of mine. Big Weezy. But you know what comics like to do to make themselves feel better? You see him at LA Comedy over in the Stratosphere Hotel. He's also done The Dirty at 12:30 here in Las Vegas. One of the biggest shows here in Las Vegas. And he's also at the Laugh Factory. Give it up for such and such, right? Those are fake ass credits. Right? Those credits mean absolutely fucking nothing. But they need it because they want to make themselves sound better than who they really are. Now, my point is, you've never heard this. This guy has had 5 fantastic specials. He was the head writer and the creator of his own television show, The Chappelle Show. He walked away from $50 million. He's here tonight, everybody. Put your hands together for Dave Chappelle. No. They just say, Dave Chappelle, everybody. Cedric the Entertainer, everybody. Joe Rogan, everybody. Bob Saget. Now, sometimes you'll work in a small club or the weekend and you're Bob Saget. And they'll say, America's Dad. But for the most part, they don't want to hear that shit. They already know that their name is their credit. But young up-and-comers, their credits are their credit. So there'll be a flyer, and sometimes they'll have one credit on the flyer. From the Comedy Store in LA. Right? Because they're trying to legitimize their comedy. I don't need to legitimize my comedy. My stage and my jokes legitimize my comedy. When you're a new comic, and I made this mistake, sometimes you have to have the walk-on music. Everyone has a favorite song they want to play when they hit the stage. Their walk-on music. You get to the venue and you track the DJ down. DJ, yeah. You got Fuck My Mama by HQ. Yeah, that's my walk-on song, DJ. Right? The DJ comes back, no, I don't have that song. What? I can't go up without that song, man. What about if I find it on my phone and you hook my phone up to your thing and then we use the auxiliary cable? Can we do it like that? I can't work without that phone. I need that song, DJ. I was the same way, Linda. I'm no different. I'm in Bakersfield, California, someplace like that, working with one of my old comedy partners. And I had my own intro. I had someone make me an intro. And the intro was based on the most interesting man in the world. And I can't remember the whole intro, but I'm going to give you the gist of the intro. There'd be some unrecognizable music playing in the background for, copyright reasons. All right. And there was a voiceover that says, his car parks itself. When he smokes a cigar, someone else lights it for him. Women have been known to eat their own pussies. Give it up for the most funniest man in the world, Big Weezy. Then there would be an explosion, right? There would be an explosion. And then Little John and the East Side Boys would come on, Get Low, right? And the song we playing, get low, get low, get low, get low, get low, get low, from the window to the wall, till the sweat runs down my balls, right? And I'm dancing and I'm doing my thing. So we're there. The DJ can't get my intro off the thumb drive. Show's supposed to start at 8. We're still at 8:30 trying to get my intro to play. I'm like, the guy says, Weezy, come on, man. You're hosting the show. Can we start the show? It's got to get my intro, man. I need my intro. Right? I'm like 3 years in. I can't work. And they finally get the intro. They finally, after 45 minutes, get the intro. And from that experience, I realized driving home, the next morning. 2-hour drive from Bakersfield back to LA. How ridiculous I was. But that's okay because I realized it. Because I always tell people, you don't know how great things are or bad things are until they're over.
Wow.
And so it's over, and I'm reviewing in my head how stupid I must have looked at people. A bar where all the TVs are on, and there are 5 people there for comedy, and they're not all sitting up front, they're all spread over. And the biggest thing that I can do is make sure that my intro is played. I need that intro played. My focus should have been on telling my jokes and taking care of that audience. But no, I needed that intro. And that was the day I decided, fuck the music, fuck the intro. Wow. You don't have, I don't care. I like walking up to Little John and the East Side Boys because it's a thing that I do. But if they don't have it, I'll go walk up to anything. And then you go to some places and there is no music. You have a guy playing the piano or there is no music and they enter you. Now, I do have one pet peeve that I watch and I say, oh, they don't know what they're doing. I tell them, listen, put the mic back on the mic stand and put it in the center of the stage for me, please. Do not hand me the microphone. Right, I'll go when you walk on stage and the guy hands you the microphone. What the hell are you doing? Have you ever seen a singer get handed a microphone on stage? Yeah, when it goes out or somebody's singing a duet and it's unexpected and the other guy comes, real low with the heads of the mic, trying to, like we don't see him. But no, that mic's on the mic stand. And it's got to be the right mic stand. I hate these musician mic stands where they bend in the middle and come on. That's not a comedic mic stand. Yeah. You can't use that mic stand as a prop. The stool and the mic stand are props. So it's the up and comers with the misinformation that are mean. The name droppers. Yeah, I ran into Dave Chappelle like 6 months ago. And, at the MGM, he was walking in and I walked up and I said, hey, Dave Chappelle, it's a pleasure to meet you, man. Can I get a pic? Yeah, I'm a comedian too. And Dave was so nice to me. Of course. Why would they be mean to you? Why are we surprised when celebrities are nice? But it's the up and comers, right? Especially when they're fighting about who's the funniest. Right. The person that's loudest, normally talking about how funny they are, the loudest normally isn't funny. All right. That's what I love about Ty, because he'll tell you if you're not funny. I won't tell you. You'll get off the stage. You'll be terrible. You'll get off the stage and be terrible. Big Weezy, how'd I do? I said, you did fine. Just keep working on it. That's what I always say. There's some people that peep my game. Weezy, you always say that. Yeah. I don't want to break your spirit.
Wow.
I had one guy that just Saturday night, come on, just Friday night. Just tell me. I said, all right. I said, throw all that bullshit out and start over. He looked at me. Said, what? I said, yeah. If you don't want to throw all that shit out and start over because you're married to it, just say something stupid in the middle, which will be a punchline, and the audience will laugh. And then start from there.
Wow.
Because you don't have any punchlines. You think they're punchlines, but they're not.
Wow.
But it's okay. I said, I was the same way. Listen, I wrote a set after being a year in called Applewood Smoked Bacon. My famous set. No one laughed at Applewood Smoked Bacon for 4 years. For 3 years. It was the way I delivered it. That's why I would get on stage and practice saying things. No French fries come with this motherfucker, right? This is outrageous. It's called the Munchie Meal. This shit's outrageous, right? That's where I would go. This is called the Munchie Meal. This shit's outrageous, right? The grilled cheeseburger. It's a grilled cheese fucking the cheeseburger. It's the grilled cheese fucking the cheeseburger. Then finally I went, it's the ladies and gentlemen. I do it, ladies and gentlemen. They've got the grilled cheese, fucking the cheeseburger. That's how I do it. All right, and I record it. I look at it, facial expressions. My neck the same way. Ladies and gentlemen, right? Little, to the left, tilt my head forward. They've got the, ladies and gentlemen, they got the cheeseburger. They've got the grilled cheese, fucking the cheeseburger. So that's comedy right there, girl. But the young comics,
they can be so brutal to each other. And, there's a lot of people in comedy that are already suicidal, and then they're treating each other mean.
I think, that's something I would have to research, because someone wrote about a month or so ago, Linda, that comics are depressed and these things and all that. And I'm like, I've never met anyone at the highest. I'd say D.L. Hughley doesn't look depressed to me. Joe Rogan doesn't look depressed to me. Bob Saget didn't look depressed to me. Cat Williams is not depressed. He's not suicidal. They're not any of these things. That's just bullshit that somebody wrote in Rolling Stone back in the 1970s, talking about how comics are putting their hearts out there and their lives because they have a hard life, and they're loners and all that. And then you've got people walking around talking about, how terrible their darkness and how they can bring their darkness on stage and all this shit. I'm an alternative comic. Fuck all of that. Use joke structure and be funny.
Okay, so I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
My financial priorities are paying off medical bills.
Yes.
So going outside, and I can't drive because of my brain trauma. So going to Mike's isn't cost effective for me every night. So I go on Zoom. I know it's not the same, but it's still practice.
Well, you know what? The jury's still out with Zoom with me. Because I'm trying not to be overcritical of Zoom. Like it was with the internet comedians 5 years ago, and how it is with T.I., the rapper that's doing comedy now. There's some people are, that controversy with him and Godfrey 2 weeks back. What people don't understand is, Linda, if you could sell out the LA Comedy Club every weekend, you'd be the headliner right now. They wouldn't give a, because people always say, Weezy, it's not about being funny. Because if you sell out the room, the club owner doesn't give a fuck if anybody laughs.
Wow.
They only give a fuck about food and beverage. And if you're bringing the people in, he won't have to have specials. You go to LA Comedy Club. I haven't been to LA Comedy Club in 4 years. But I remember I would go to LA Comedy Club, and toward the end of the night, they'd have like, hey, for $20, you can get unlimited such and such, right? Well, that's an incentive to get your $20. They don't give a fuck if you can't stand up when you walk out of there. They got to pay the guy. What's the guy that owns the place? Mike Chavez?
Matt Chavez.
Matt Chavez. Got to pay rent. He's got to pay rent to the Stratosphere. So he needs to sell seats. So he brings in top talent from LA. Now you got local comedians complaining, man, we can't get on into LA Comedy Club, man. Can't even feature. Right? The headliner brings his own feature. That's because your fucking comedy in Las Vegas is terrible.
Wow.
It's not your fault. I live in Hollywood. Right? How does a guy like Jay Devane, how does a guy like Ty Rivera, and there's probably a couple of others I can't think of right now, come from LA and can work on any fucking stage? It's like Ty said, you know what? I'm going to go take over fucking Las Vegas this weekend. Got a U-Haul truck, packed all his shit, drove into town, got an apartment and just showed up. He can headline the Laugh Factory, the Cellar, the LA Comedy Club. He can walk in and tell Gabe Lopez, Gabe, I want to go on tonight, and Gabe's going to put him on. He's from fucking LA. What happens is our worst comic is always the best comic out of town. That's what it is. Because everyone here in LA is fucking top notch. You can see Dave Chappelle comes to town, or Chris Rock comes to town, or Leslie Jones comes to town, or Joe Rogan comes to town. These motherfuckers are in the club every night. You have top notch talent in the clubs every night. The top notch talent down there in Vegas is at the Laugh Factory every night. You got your headliner that does your 7 nights, and then you got your weekend headliner. That's your top notch talent. You got Brad Garrett. He's got top notch talent. All right. But how many people are sitting around hanging out at Brad Garrett's or the Laugh Factory? I can walk into the Laugh Factory straight into the green room. Right? No, you got everybody hanging around at these fucking bars and open mics talking shit and complaining.
Good point.
But your best comic can't come to LA and have an impact.
Wow.
And I tell everyone, it's not just there, it's all over the country. Nobody gives a fuck that you're the king of Montana. That don't mean shit in LA. Right? You gotta have your IMDb account open, your LA casting account open. I'm sorry, you have to have your IMDb account open, your LA casting account open, you have to have your EPK, you have to have your Frontier casting account open. You gotta be on all the casting networks, you gotta have your headshots up on all the casting networks, you gotta be on the breakdowns, those are the breakdown services, right? You have to have your resume filled out on all those places and all those things. That's just the minimum, okay? Same thing on IMDb. You have to have your EPK ready to go. You got to have your fucking website ready to go. Now you're considered a professional. All right? So when people say Big Weezy's a comedian, all they got to do is go to my IMDb account and it's got my fucking credits already there. And your credits on IMDb are verified from the people at IMDb. I made a video called Ratchet in the Box. I'm the executive producer of Ratchet in the Box. Anybody who worked on that project of Ratchet in the Box, who goes to IMDb and puts down they worked on Ratchet in the Box, the people at IMDb call me as the executive producer to verify that they worked on that show to get their IMDb credit. So when somebody says Big Weezy was in the movie, I got the, oh, yeah, I know. I told you, this is all day, Linda. When I say I was in, I got the hookup too, you go to my IMDb and it says Big Weezy, I got the hookup too. See, so that's why I was talking earlier when we talked about the credits. Okay, nobody cares about all that kind of stuff. Your real credits are on your IMDb. All right, it's got how you contact your manager, your agent, and all those things are on the internet. It's IMDb stands for the Internet Movie Database. That's where the people in Hollywood go to check you out.
So what are the things you need to do? You listed off a bunch. Something about a bunch of casting. What was all that?
Okay, well, you have LA Casting and Actors Access and Frontier Casting. And what's the other one? Oh, God. For the union. What's the union? The union, see, oh God, the union for SAG. All right, all these are the breakdown services. When there's a part that's available that for the movies or whatever, it's called a breakdown. They break down the synopsis. We're looking for males 18 to 65 to play a role, and then they list a role and they list the all ethnicities except. That's called a breakdown. You read the breakdown and you think that oh my God, I want to audition for this part. So what you do is you submit yourself, all right, to casting. And if they're interested in you, they'll send you an audition appointment. When you have a manager and an agent, they do that for you. They submit for you and they pitch you. All right. Even the big actors still get pitched. All right. Because once you become a Denzel Washington, then you don't have to be pitched. You're now offer only. That means you get things offered to you to play. That's called offer only. Wow. Everyone else still has to get pitched. So it's like that movie King George with Will Smith. The lady that plays his wife in the movie, all right, she had to audition, she had to send in her tape, she fought for that role. She fought for that role. Okay, she still has to read. Now she's nominated for an Academy Award, so she's automatically now going to be offer only. She will never have to be pitched again.
Wow.
Okay, like Tiffany Haddish, she fought for Girls Trip. The movie did so well, she gets offered parts now. All right, Cat doesn't have to audition. He gets offered roles. But what happens is why would he work 5 or 6 months for $1 million when he can work 4 hours a month and make $1 million? Jeez. Someone says, I don't see Cat in any movies. Well, that's because if I'm getting $250,000 a show, right? Why would I work for $700,000 or $1 million for 6 months? Right? You know, all I got to do is show up and stand in front of people for an hour. And then afterward, say hello to my friends. And then somebody drives me back to my house and I go to sleep. I'm not getting up at 4 a.m. for a 6 a.m. call and sit in the makeup and hair and makeup for an hour and then hit the set and then do a rehearsal and then do last looks and then shoot the scene and then shoot the scene again and then shoot the scene again and then shoot the scene again because, you know, they're moving the camera around, getting the different camera angles, even though they're already using the A and the B camera. All right? And they're fighting the sun because the cinematographer is responsible for the lighting. So they got the gaffers working their asses off, getting the lighting right, making sure everything's consistent in the shot. Right? And next thing you know, 13 hours has gone by. And then you go back to your trailer, you get undressed, and you get in your car, and then you go home. And then the alarm rings again at 4 o'clock in the morning, and you do that again. And that's for like 3 or 4 months. And then you finally finish. And then they have post-production, and it takes 6 or 7 months to get the movie finished. And then they decide we're going to release the movie in a year, right? Then a year goes by, and now it's time to do promotion. Kat, we need you to go on the Late Show with Jimmy Fallon. We need you to do some radio interviews, right? We need you to do this. So you got to promote the fucking movie for at least 2 weeks before it comes out, right?
Gee.
And then you got to do a junket. Oh my God. They have them at the Beverly Hills Hotel, right? Where you sit there and they got the media from all over the world and they each get 3 minutes. And then you sit in the chair and all day long they come in and interview you from all over the world in 500 different languages. Gosh. People don't know. They just see the glitz and the glamour, girl. Right? And the things I just described to you, you're supposed to know this as a comedian.
Wow.
So when I tell people I'm a stand-up comedian, I'm a motherfucking professional stand-up comedian. I'm on IMDb. I'm on the breakdown.
What do you think about some people?
Huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm interrupting you.
Yeah, so, you know, I've got my headshots. I got all those things. They're important. I got managers. You know, they get a cut of my money. You know, and that's it, right? And the fact that I work with Cat Williams means that sometimes I get to fly in the private jet. Sometimes I get to fly first class. I always stay in great places. When I was in Las Vegas there on the 21st and the 22nd, when Cat did the shows there at the MGM Park Theater, he was in some house. It was the biggest house I've ever stayed in my life. It was an 18,000 square foot house over there in Lake Las Vegas. I didn't even know there was a Lake Las Vegas. This house had 9 bedrooms and 15 fucking bathrooms in it. It was fucking amazing. And people cooking food fresh all fucking day.
He seems like the type that eats really healthily.
It does what?
My impression of Cat is that he eats healthy food.
Well, you know what? I don't know.
He's so high energy.
Well, yeah, no, he's always high energy, and he exercises a lot. But no, he fucking eats Burger King. He eats burgers.
I have a question for you. I know we're getting kind of long on time and you need to go at some point, but I want to ask you a question because you're a strong proponent like Ty, and I respect you both, about knowing your material inside and out. Yes. So what do you think of people who have done comedy 30 or 40 years that get up there and wing it?
They don't.
They say they do.
No, if they do and they've been 30 years and nobody knows who the fuck they are, that answers your question.
Got it.
Right? Because that's lazy comedy and it doesn't work. All right? The objective is to be passed. The objective is to be passed. For people who don't know what that means is when you get passed through at a club, you're a paid regular. You get paid to work at that club. Right? And if you're Ty Rivera, you're passed at every fucking club in America.
Yep.
He gets paid at every fucking club he works at. When Ty works for free, it's because he decided he was going to work for free. But he doesn't work for gas money. He doesn't show up for a meal and a drink. Okay? He's earned through his comedy. How many people, have you ever seen anybody walk up to fucking Ty Rivera and tell him he's not the funniest LGBTQ comedian in the world?
No.
That's how he bills himself. And no one has ever walked into him and said, motherfucker, you full of shit. You are not. So, no, he's right. You know, and there are people like him and myself and others, we try and tell the comedians, because see, everyone thinks this is an easy job. And it's not an easy job. Out of all the entertainment jobs, I would put this only behind choreography.
Wow.
Because my son was a professional dancer and he had to dance 15 hours a week to do his routines on the weekends. All right. And he had acting classes and he had scene study, which is kind of like acting classes, but a different component. All right. And he had one-on-one coaching and he had vocal lessons. But what happened between the age of 8 years old and 13 years old, my son earned a whopping $350,000.
Wow.
All right. And I would get up at 4:30 in the morning to drive him 60 miles to school because he went to a special school in LA for the School of the Arts with other famous kids. All right. And I would drop him off and I get a call from his agent. There's a read, right? They send me the dialogue or we call them sides. Right. And I pick my son up early from school and then I give him the sides and he starts studying them on the way to the audition. And by the time he got there, he knew 3 pages of dialogue because that was his job. He show up, we sit in the room with a whole bunch of other people. They go in, he reads and we leave. If they call you back, that means you have a chance. If they call you after that, that means you're down to the final 2 or 3. And they don't tell you if you get the job. They only tell you when you get the job. So you go. And this was the experience. If you got the job, you knew by the time you got back to the car. If you got in the car and you drove off, you probably didn't get the job. But every now and then you get surprised. You get a call a month later, you got the job. And that just means number 1 fell out.
Totally.
Because sometimes you already have they already have the person at the job and they're just getting the backup. That's when I learned about the fix being in. I found out about the fix being in because one time my son went to an audition. There was a casting associate that asked me for an extra headshot and resume. So I gave it to him. I get a call 3 weeks later. Is this Shamari's dad? I said, yes. They said there's a producer of such and such wants to see him over at such and such studios. Said, would you like to see us? Can you be there tomorrow at 3? Yes. We go there the next day at 3, walk in, sign in. The guy takes my son in the office. He's in there for about a half an hour. He comes out. He says, thanks for coming in. That was fantastic. I get a call from the agent the next day. Your son's got the job. Then I get a call a week later for my son to go audition for the same fucking job he already has. So I'm sitting there with 50 other kids, all right, and all these other parents who are all looking at each other and always, the parents did it. The parents were, oh, my son did this, and my son went that, and my son knows this, and we had dinner at such and such's house. That's what it was like with the parents of child actors every day, all right? Right? And I'm sitting in that room like, yeah, my son already has the part. You motherfuckers are just, you're vying for number 2. Because my wife was like, I thought he has the part. He said, yeah, babe, the fix is in Hollywood. Everything has to look good on TV. There's no, who wants, right? Everything looks good on TV. Everything has to look, you look at a game show, all right? Everybody's got to win something. You look at The Price is Right, they have these showcase, all right? You have some people that don't win, but you know, that's just that because they fucked up. It's designed for you to win. All right? I mean, I got to ride in vans with Vanessa Williams and other famous people. I remember one time I got in the van when my son was on Ugly Betty. And I got in the front seat because that's the best seat. Someone says, that seat belongs to V-Dub. I didn't know who the fuck V-Dub was, but I got my fat ass up out and I said, is there anywhere else I can sit? He said, you know, you can sit anywhere else in the van, but that's V-Dub. Next thing you know, Vanessa Williams gets in the van and sits in there, and then we go to the set. I said, oh, V-Dub's for Vanessa Williams. Right? Then we're in an afternoon break because they always got great food on these kick-ass productions. We're on an afternoon break, and they have this hot dog cart on the back of a pickup truck that rolls in onto the set, because the set had a big square, and there were like different studios surrounding it, because this is a big studio in downtown LA where they shoot a lot of shit. There'll be times where I'll see a scene on TV where they're in front of the studio because it's got office buildings, and they're shooting in front of the office building, like, and it's like the FBI headquarters. I'm like, that's the fucking studio in downtown LA, right? Anyway, this hot dog cart rolls in, okay, and these guys got the best fucking hot dogs I've ever had in my life, with the best fucking hot dog, and they're grating the cheese off a big block in front of you and sprinkling. I'm standing behind Vanessa Williams, right? And they know how she wants her chili cheese dog with sauerkraut on it. I'm standing behind her in line, and you like cover her wardrobe up with like a sheet thing so she won't spill anything on it when she's eating. Yeah, I mean, that was just amazing. The crafty table, there's something called craft services where, you know, they've got a big table there where they've got snacks and stuff all day long, so the crew can just walk over there and grab a soda, grab a water, grab chips. Well, this was ABC. So they were making fresh tortilla chips and smashing avocados and making fresh guacamole and chopping up the tomatoes, onions, cilantro, making fresh, you know, all day long. They got them frying up chicken wings all day long. And then when lunch comes, right? Lunch is amazing. Pasta, shrimp linguine with Alfredo sauce and steaks and all this stuff. They're serving all this, right? And you only get a half hour for lunch. All right. So the talent eats first. All right. The whole crew standing there, and the talent gets in line, and then they get their stuff. And once, you know, the talent got their, then everybody else rushes to get their freaking food. And then they sit there and eat. All right. And some of the talent, you know, the major stars, sometimes the major stars eats with the rest of the crew. And that's why the rest of the crew loves them. They be like, oh, yeah, I met Dave. He's so great. He ate with us and everything, you know. That's what it is, man. Everyone's nice. Everyone's nice. It's the people at the bottom trying to get up there that think they have to be condescending or whatever, trying to get there, and that doesn't work because nobody has to pay to work with you.
I can't stand it when people have to cut each other down. Can't stand it.
No. Anyway, Linda, I go now.
We got to go now. Thank you so much. I appreciate your coming on, Wayne. You're amazing.
Thank you for having me, Linda.
And if you've listened to this, try being kinder to other people. That's the whole point of today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Linda. I love you, girl. You take care.
Love you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.